is going on? Welcome inside the Red Mile Rundown. This is episode 51. I am your host, Johnny Stope, and of course, alongside me, as always, from flamesnation.ca, Robert Munich. How are you today, Robert?
I'm doing great. There's no complaints going on, minus the fact the Flames are dead last in every single statistical category. We got the basement bowl tonight, the old toilet bowl between the Flames and the Blues. So, I'm doing great. Flames are not doing great.
It could be worse. We could be out in Ontario and getting all that heavy, wet, gross snow and wind. Instead, we just get the wind here. So that part's okay. So the weather's been decent for the beginning of November. That's what I'm holding my hopes on for right now, is just a little bit more of this nicer weather before the slop starts out this direction. As for the Flames, it has been kind of sloppy for them. This last weekend was not great. Before we dive into that, Robert, just want to thank the listeners. The podcast last week got rave reviews, the highest ever downloaded episode of the Red Mile Rundown. So appreciate everybody for making us a part of your podcast rotations. And, well, Robert, the Flames played a couple games on the weekend. We're still waiting for that first goal. What'd you make of what we saw on the weekend versus Chicago and then into Minnesota?
Oh man, that Chicago game was ugly.
Bedard's good.
Yeah. Like I posted on Flames Nation after I did the final score graphic. I did Connor Bedard 4, Flames none. That's it was the Bedard show. It was pretty incredible. So good on him. You hope Murray Edwards and ownership was in the building watching that one, watching a superstar first overall pick will his team to victory over a lackluster group in the Flames. Hopefully that could kind of send a sign to ownership that, hey, this is kind of an indication of the direction we need to go in. But yeah, the game against Chicago was ugly. In Minnesota, I mean, you got to give them credit in the sense that they work their ass off. Like, you could tell it's not a work ethic issue with this team for sure. This is just a pure skill issue. It's a lack of creativity issue. It's a goal scoring issue. It's a systems issue. And, they ultimately end up losing that game 2-0. But, Devin Cooley was great. I thought they played well defensively. They controlled most of the play, but they're just not dangerous. And feels like every single time we come on this podcast and talk about this team this season, that's literally what we say almost every single time. So, yeah, rough couple days. Hopefully they can at least score a few goals against the Blues tonight.
My biggest takeaway from this past weekend, Robert, and watching this team is for me, both games had a similar story for me, and that was, sure, you saw the effort, you saw the work, you saw the guys trying to compete, but nothing was in the middle. Nothing was hard. They didn't make Spencer Knight work at all, and then they gave Jesper Wallstedt very little work in that game against Minnesota. So it was a lot of outside, easy stuff that these goaltenders were having to deal with. And you mentioned systems there, like the systems got to have these guys work a little harder to get to the inside because they're making it sound really, really easy on their opponents defensively. And Jesper Wallstedt gets a nice shutout there, but did you have to make a 10-bell save, really? Like, no. It just that for me was the big thing about the weekend. Is we'll talk about the goal scoring or lack thereof for the Flames for 2 games, but you got to make it harder on the goalie, right? Like, this team is not going to score those dangle 3 guys or strip like Bedard did on Friday. They're stripping a player and going for a nice breakaway move. They're going to have to get these pucks to the net and get the tips and the rebounds and get greasy. Almost Thomas Holmstrom, these type of goals like he used to do for the Red Wings back in the day. Just unfortunately, they can't get these goaltenders to work harder. They're going to have to change that with going up against Jordan Binnington tonight.
It's frustrating too because if you listen to the players post game and you listen to Huska post game, they literally say the same thing every single time. All they talk about is we got to get more bodies to the net. We got to make it more difficult. We're 17 games into the season here. When are you going to learn these lessons? When are you actually going to apply these lessons to the game where we're still not seeing it? And the thing for me is it's great to get a lot of shots on net in terms of volume, but I think it might actually benefit this Calgary Flames team to maybe take less shots and try to improve the quality of some of them. Instead of putting 35 shots on with no traffic in front and all from the outside, maybe you take that down to 25 to 28 shots, but you end up getting 3 or 4 more quality looks, whether that's through passing plays, creativity, just being in better positions to shoot. Because the way the offense is going right now, it's Daryl Sutter hockey in the sense of they're literally shooting from everywhere, but the team doesn't have the skill. They don't have the talent to be able to bury those shots from the outside. Like they basically, like you said, they have to have bodies, they have to have traffic, they have to have tips, they have to get shots to go off their ass and in. I think that Huska should maybe tell the guys to maybe be a little bit more selective on shots moving forward. Try to generate more quality, because that's how you score in the NHL. These goalies are too good.
Yeah.
And they're too big. Like I look at on Sunday, Wallstat, the guy takes up the entire net. So if you're just shooting from the outside with no traffic, he's going to stop it every single time. So they have to change it up here. They really do. You take a look at their offensive stats; they're at the bottom of everything. No one's producing. It's a mess right now. And like we've been talking about, it's probably not a bad thing, but at the same time, you still want to put on a show for your fans. You want to entertain your fans, and they're not doing it right now.
Yeah, and to that point, Robert. Okay, the Flames outshot Minnesota on Sunday, 36-19. You go to natural stat tricks, and they have the high dangers at 8-7 for Minnesota. So that's a huge discrepancy in how these offenses are going. Minnesota is not off to the hardest start either, if you go look at where they're sitting in the standings as well. But they're able to get inside. They're able to produce and make it a little bit harder on the other opposing goaltenders and get those opportunities and bury those opportunities. So this Flames team just doesn't, like, shot volume is great, like you mentioned there, but the quality of shots also matter. Like, you can throw 40 pucks from the blue line to the net and get 40 shots, but is that really going to benefit you the long run? So I'm with you here, Robert. They've got to find a way, and they got the horses to do it. Farabee and Frost, these guys can go to the net. Zeri's a net front guy. Kadri crashes the net. Huberdeau scores in close. They've got guys to do it. They got to start doing it, because it's hard. And I've tweeted it after. I don't remember which game I tweeted it after. It's like, here come the comments again, and I just don't want to hear it, because you knew it was coming from the team into the media after a game. We need to create more chances. We need to bear down. Well, it's time to start bearing down. And yes, you may not be as talented as the Chicago Blackhawks are with their high-end talent, or Minnesota with their high-end talent. You can still get greasy goals. You can still bring those teams into the mud. You can still find ways to make it an exciting hockey game, because right now it's a slog to watch as well, Robert. Like, we found ourselves watching the game against Chicago, and the only times I was brought out of my seat was when Chicago and Bedard took over. Like, the Flames need to provide a little bit something here. If they're going to be 32nd, that's fine, because we know what that leads to. You got to have a product still as well, right? You got to have something that's worth watching and exciting for.
Yeah, I totally agree. And a stat here to kind of give some context as to how bad this start has been for the Calgary Flames. So this season, through 17 games, there's only 2 Flames players that are on pace to get over half a point per game this year. So to be 41-point players, there's only 2, and it's Nazem Kadri, who's on pace for 53 points, and it's Jonathan Huberdeau, who's on pace for 54. Everybody else is below 40 points right now in terms of an 82-game point projection. Like, it's ugly. It's super ugly. You take a look, Blake Coleman, he's on pace for about 28 goals. Huberdeau's on pace for 27, so that's great. Everybody else is on pace for less than 20 goals. Like, the whole team is struggling right now. It's, you're getting some pop from Nazem Kadri. You're getting some pop from Jonathan Huberdeau, but, like, outside of that, it's just everyone's struggling, and it's why it's fair to start asking questions about Ryan Huska and his long-term future with the Flames, because who has truly succeeded under Ryan Huska? I mean, so he's been here this is his 3rd season as head coach. Sure, you go back to the first year, Blake Coleman scored 30, Yegor Sharangovich scored 30, Mackenzie Weegar scored 20. So there was some success in that first year from a few individuals, but we're in year 3 now, and you just take a look. Like, Rasmus Anderson has regressed like crazy. Matt Coronado has regressed this season. Connor Zary has really regressed this season. He's only got 2 points in 15 games. It's just, Mackenzie Weegar has regressed this year. You go up and down the line. Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee since joining the Calgary Flames have really struggled to produce. Like who is thriving under this coach right now? And like, I'll kind of put it to you, like where are you at on Huska right now? We talk. It seems like we talk about him every week. You and I both like the guy. We both like the person, but from a pure coaching standpoint, where are you at with Huska right now?
Yeah, we talk about him a lot because when you have a struggling team, the coach gets a lot of the focus, right? Because the coach controls a lot of aspects of the game. You make a good point there with him as who's flourishing under Huska, and you don't see too much growth here. You don't see your prospects growing. You don't see players who should be taking the next step, i.e. a Zeri or a Sharon Govich. You're not seeing the defensemen in a defensive system taking a step forward with their numbers. Mackenzie Weegar's, what's he at, 0 points still this year? Like it's
0 goals.
It's 0 goals, sorry. It's weird because you don't mind what Ryan Huska does as a coach. Like he tries to pull the right buttons. He tries to get guys going and reward those guys who are going. He's not afraid to send a message, so he's not walked all over at times. But at the same time, it's like, I understand you have a flawed roster, but we talked about last week, are you going the other direction with things? Are you overcoaching things? Is there too many movements? Is there too many decisions being made? Why is Zeri being scratched for 2 games and then fourth line center, but then you want him on the left side of the second line? Why is Sharon Govich going from first line to fourth line center, but then he's scratched, and then Coronado's weirdly scratched in a weird spot of the schedule? It's harder to defend the decisions Ryan Huska has been making, even though you like the guy. And I think given a roster with a little bit more talent on it, his system would work a little bit better because he's working with obviously a team that can't score. But then at the same time, on the flip side, well, that's your job, is to get this team in the position to score. So I'm not sure I am with Ryan Huska at the moment, because you see good, you see the bad, and you see that it's his job to create certain things, but at the same time, he doesn't have the players to create certain things. So it's hard to really, for me, to say where I'm at with Ryan Huska. Like, I think making a coaching change at this point, at this season, really doesn't do much for the team, with where they're sitting in the standings and what this roster is made up of. But at the same time, you can't help but wonder if there's a change coming, because there's just nothing coming out of this group. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for me, Robert.
I'm in the same boat. The one thing that I'm going to find interesting here is that at some point here, even though it's taking way too long for the Flames to get to this point, Craig Conroy and the management team, they will go to Huska and say, hey, this is a bit of a lost season. We're going to transition our strategy here, and we're really going to focus on development, and we're going to focus on young players. It's going to happen. It should have already happened, because they're so far out of it, and they're playing such terrible hockey this season. But they have to wait till U.S. Thanksgiving to figure out what this team is, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So there will come a time here where the Flames are going to change their priority. At least we hope. Let's see what Huska's like then, because this season, I'm going to assume next season they're not going to be good. These are 2 big years for development, 2 big years for playing young players. Let's see how Huska does in that environment, because over the last 3 years here of his coaching, he's been told by management, you need to push this team into the playoffs. So that's why he's using so many veteran players. That's why he's healthy scratching some young guys. That's why he's pushing these buttons. But now that the mandate is probably going to be, let's focus on development. Let's see maybe if he kind of lightens things up from a defensive perspective. Maybe he allows for a little bit more creativity. He puts younger players in positions to succeed. Let's see if he does that, and then we can probably make like a final judgment on what we think is the best long-term sort of future for the Flames at the head coaching position. Because if the Flames tell him play young players and it's a train wreck, and he doesn't really oblige, he's not really focusing as much on development as he should be and all that kind of stuff. Like, if that happens, then there's a legitimate conversation to be had about his future. But, maybe he does do a good job with player development once he's told that mandate. So yeah, let's give him some time here. let's give him basically this season. You're not going to fire him this season. It literally makes no sense, like you said. So yeah, let's give him the rest of the season, and then come April, I think we'll have a way better sort of timetable, and we'll have a lot more evidence to work off of when we're actually making like a final judgment on this guy.
I wonder if when that, and it should already have happened like you mentioned, but I wonder if that mandate comes down, if that's actually better for Ryan Huska. And I say that knowing what he did for this Flames organization before he became the head coach. Go back to his days in Stockton. He had the opportunity to coach some of these players, the Mangiapanis, Rasmus Anderson, Oliver Shillington at the time, some of these younger Flame players that we were excited about a few years ago, and teach them and help them learn the system and the way the Flames play their game before he became an assistant coach with the Flames. So I wonder if him going back to being a teacher of the game rather than trying to push a team over the top is more what Ryan Huska is best suited for, because he got a lot of guys to the NHL and helped bring them up to the NHL. Rasmus Anderson speaks about it a lot when he first came up to the Flames. Oliver Shillington gave Huska a lot of credit for his development as well. So I wonder if that's more of a role he's more suited for. Now, obviously, that's a role that you kind of want an assistant coach to have, type of thing. But hey, if you have a head coach who can be a teacher for young kids, knowing how the Flames have drafted the last couple of years, knowing what they have in the American Hockey League this year, guys like Ridden and Basha and guys that you're hoping can produce into something, maybe that role benefits Ryan Huska, because if that mandate comes down and he fails at being a teacher, then I think this isn't a head coach in the National Hockey League. I don't think that's his skill set, which isn't a bad thing. Sometimes guys are just good assistant coaches, and that's fine. So the Flames are really going to find out, like you said here, Robert, what we have in this coach. It's not just about finding out what we have with these younger players as we try to develop this roster into something better than what it is. Maybe the head coach should be put in that same category here of learning what we actually have here in this guy as a head coach, and maybe we'll see a little bit of a different result coming down the road here from him. Does it give you pause that Conroy, who gave Huska this contract extension, doesn't have a contract himself? And if they make a move there, what does that say about Huska's job as well? What does all that mean for you here, Robert?
Yeah, it's kind of weird that Conroy doesn't have a contract right now. It's totally strange, because I guess it all depends on what the goals were from ownership for Conroy, what their mandate was. Because if the mandate was, Craig, we're going to give you 5-6 years to turn this thing around and do a pretty heavy retool / rebuild, then you'd think Conroy would be signed by now.
Mm-hmm.
If the mandate was, Craig, we want you to keep this a good team. We want you to, turn over the roster a little bit with all these pending UFAs, but we want you to stay in the playoff mix. Well, then there's probably a reason why he's not signed right now, because the team is in 32nd place. So it's interesting. Like, it really, like I said, it all kind of depends on what ownership's expectations are. If they're realistic and they take a long-term approach, then Conroy should be signed. But if they're thinking to themselves, we gave Craig 3 years, coming up on 4 here to turn this team around, and we're in dead last in the NHL, that's not good enough. Would they consider making a move? This is strictly from an ownership perspective, not the fans, because I think basically the overwhelming majority of Flames fans obviously want Craig Conroy to stay here and figure this thing out. But is ownership going to get impatient? Are they going to say, you know what, Craig's inexperienced and he's put us in a position where we're dead last in the NHL. Do we need to bring in a veteran voice? Do we need to make Dave Nonis the full-time GM? Do we need to bring in somebody who's been a GM in this league for 10, 15 years? It's honestly because of this ownership group, because of just how insane they are and how badly they want to remain competitive. It wouldn't surprise me if they were having those types of discussions right now, even though I think they're insane personally. Yeah. But it wouldn't surprise me if those guys were talking about that.
Yeah, because the Flames really put their trust in a rookie general manager and a rookie head coach to try to get this team over the top. Like Brad Treliving moved on and he left the team in the state he left the team. And Craig Conroy was given the keys here with a veteran group. And he tried with Sutter. Sutter didn't work. And now it's Ryan Huska. And it doesn't seem like we're getting anywhere. It feels like spinning of the tires. So it is interesting that the ownership group allowed a rookie head coach and general manager to coexist. So I wonder how long that leash really is and what the mandate really is from the ownership group for both of these guys, because we know and we heard for a long time that it was playoffs, no matter what. It was playoffs, right? And that's why you saw Brad Treliving do what he did while he was in charge. And now I wonder how much Conroy can sell the rebuild or a retool to Murray Edwards, and I wonder how long that leash really is, because without a contract extension, if they're not going to sign him beyond this year, are they really going to let him make these type of trades, or are they going to bring in a veteran who can just double down for Murray Edwards and bring in some veterans to try to put them back in the playoffs? So it is an interesting situation to watch. My hope is that they see the vision that Conroy paints for them, that we've heard him talk about in the media about how he needs to get younger and he wants more youth in the lineup, and they try to turn things over here a little bit, because there's an opportunity for the Flames here to really right the ship over the next couple of drafts with some really good prospects coming, some deep drafts coming. Are they going to allow Conroy to make those moves and allow him to do that kind of thing? So it is interesting that he doesn't have a contract beyond this season for me.
Well, if Flames ownership was realistic, they would realize that when Craig Conroy took over this team, that it was a train wreck.
It was hot garbage.
Between all the pending UFAs, between the lackluster prospect pool that they had, between the aging veterans, there were no players in that like 24 to 30 age range. Between all that, it was so obvious that this team was going to struggle for a long time. And we're seeing that come to fruition right now. They probably should have struggled last season, but they had a rookie Dustin Wolf keep them in it all year. If they were realistic, they would understand this is not a good team. Craig Conroy was put in a very difficult position to turn this thing around in a short period of time. They had to have known it was going to take 5, 6, 7 years for Conroy to really turn the team around and turn them into a competitive playoff team. And we're in year 3/4, 3.5 year of Conroy's plan. And, you got to have some patience. You got to let him kind of see this out. I think he's done a great job refilling the prospect pipeline. There's a lot of really good prospects on this team. He did a decent job moving out all those pending UFAs. There were a couple misses, but there were also a couple grand slam home runs in there too. So just, you got to give them time. But if there's one thing that this ownership group has shown in the past, is that they're extremely impatient and they do want to make the playoffs every single year. So with that in mind, it does make me question. So yeah, with that in mind, and the fact that Conroy doesn't have a contract right now, it does make me question how confident they are in his plan and how confident they are in Craig Conroy right now. It's pretty interesting. No one's really talking about this in Flames land right now.
Yeah, that we are, because
that's why you come to the Red Mile Rundown.
That's exactly why you come here, because we can talk about Ryan Huska and his systems, and that's all a valid conversation. But if they move on from Craig Conroy after this season, a new general manager is going to come in here. How quick is that going to change the rest of the equation below him? How fast does that? How small does that leash get for Ryan Huska? What's the mandate of a new general manager, and what's his vision and how he sees this team going forward? Do they double down on keeping Nazem Kadri? Do they re-sign Rasmus Sanderson rather than trade? Like, all of those questions come right back to the surface that we've been trying to answer this year and last year through this podcast and other shows. If you reset it again, you're starting over again. So what is the new mandate? And then the coaching doesn't matter. It's a new coach coming in here. What's his system going to be like? And it's almost like they're going to reset again.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thought. It really is, because this team has missed a couple of other opportunities to hit the reset button. Like they sped it up in 2015 after that successful season with Gaudreau and Monahan, who have absolutely sensational seasons. Brad Treliving doubled down after Gaudreau and Tkachuk left, trading Sean Monahan away, and he doubled down with the next group of guys, and it didn't work either. So they've missed a couple of opportunities to go down this road, and that always gives me pause when you come to a crossroads like a contract for your general manager. Or trying to trade away some veterans like a Nazem Kadri, like a Rasmus Anderson. What is that mandate? What is the owner thinking here? Because this could flip in a hurry. They could come out next week and say, we've relieved Craig Conroy of our duties. Dave Nonis takes over. The mandate is to get in the playoffs, to fix this, to salvage the season. And that changes the entire picture of what we see in front of us. And that's a scary thought.
And I could totally see ownership treating this year as like the 2013-2014 season when the Flames really struggled and they drafted Sam Bennett. But then the following season is when they kind of broke out a little bit. They made the playoffs, and then that's when they signed Michael Frolik. That's when they traded multiple draft picks for Dougie Hamilton. I could see Murray Edwards really pushing the Flames in that type of direction, and him saying, okay, we'll have this one bad year here, but we're right back in it next year. And does he trust Craig with that? And I do want to make it abundantly clear. Both you and I are not on board with the whole get rid of Conroy conversation. Like we are not. We are not promoting that. All we're saying is, from ownership's perspective, what is Murray Edwards thinking when it comes to this?
You gotta be really quick. Sorry, Robert. Really quick. You got to give your general manager that 5-6 years to try to get a plan into place here. Yes, he's 3 years into this, right? Like not quite 3 years into it. You got to let him see the project through a little bit before you pass a judgment here. So I think,
but he's impatient. Murray's impatient.
Exactly, 100%. So you got to try to preach patience to a guy who's not patient, and I hope he gives Conroy a couple of years here to keep going.
One thing I wanted to throw out there, and I want to get your thoughts on this. So, in my opinion, okay, how do I'm trying to put this nicely here. I'm going to throw the question out there. Is Don Maloney the guy you want as your president?
No.
Of operations. Okay, so there's a quick answer from you. There's a guy who's a free agent right now sitting out there looking for a new job in a president role. What do you think of the idea about potentially bringing a guy like Brendan Shanahan to Calgary?
I like it because, not because of the name, but because of the idea of a new voice. He's not part of any part of Flames history. He's not part of the allure. He's not part of the old man's club that people like to talk about. He's not part of anything. It's a different voice at the top, a different idea set, and all of that kind of stuff. So I like the idea of going outside the box a little bit. You look at Don Maloney. Well, he was with Brad Treliving in Arizona, so there's ties there. Dave Nonis also worked with Treliving and Maloney. So it's a lot of the same over and over and over again. I know you from a previous job. You come in here, and people like to be comfortable with other people like that, and I get why you would bring in guys you've worked with before if it's worked and been successful. I like the idea of a guy like Brendan Shanahan because it's a different voice. He's a guy who is, as well, he's not going to be okay just being comfortable, right? He likes to make other people uncomfortable. He likes to push the issues. He likes to, heck, he dealt with Toronto for how many years, right? Like, so that's not an easy job. So I like the idea. Maybe not necessarily Shanahan, but someone like that. But yeah, I'm for something like that because of the new voice, new ideas, and the push that he would give everyone else.
Yeah, and like the reason I bring up his name is that when he went to Toronto, the Maple Leafs organization was in disarray.
Yes,
it was a legitimate train wreck. They were a terrible hockey team. They had no prospects. They had a brutal relationship with their fans, brutal relationship with their alumni. Like it was really ugly. And Shanahan went in there, and he completely turned things around. And he did it through like a traditional tear it down rebuild too. So if, like, for example, like if he were to come to Calgary, he'd basically be in the same position as he was when he first got to Toronto. And he guided the Maple Leafs from being a train wreck to turning them into a team that makes the playoffs every single year, a team that has elite talent. Yes, they haven't worked out in the playoffs, and you can make an argument that Shanahan held onto that core for too long. He's not a perfect person. He's not a perfect hockey executive, but he guided the Toronto Maple Leafs to a much better place than where they were compared to when he started. And I wonder if he could potentially do the same thing in Calgary. And he's like a legit established hockey voice. He's really good at managing up. I really wonder if he could do a better job managing up to a guy like Murray Edwards than a guy like Don Maloney. I mean, we don't know anything about Don Maloney. He doesn't do interviews. He never talks to the media, but he does kind of feel like a yes man. I don't know if he's the type of guy who's going to stand up to Murray Edwards and tell him, no, this is what we're doing. I feel like he's more of the type of guy that's like, yes, I'll take your direction, Mr. Edwards, and I'll take it to Craig. Whereas Brendan Shanahan, he dealt with the MLSE board, like some of like the most high-ranking, powerful people in the business world in Canada, and he's telling them, no, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
He's telling them like this is my plan. I'm sticking to it. You're not going to tell me what to do. And I think having that type of voice dealing with a guy like Murray Edwards could actually be very beneficial for this team. Now, I think it's probably completely unrealistic because I don't think the Flames could probably pay him enough money. Like he was rumored to be making something like $7-8 million a year running the Maple Leafs. Like he's not going to get anything close to that if he were to come to Calgary. But I do think the Flames need that type of person, that type of voice to be able to stand up to Murray Edwards right now.
Yeah, and he's the kind of guy that lets his general manager work as well, right? Like, so he gets the plan from the general manager and he holds his general manager to the plan. That's kind of what you need here. I don't think that money would be an issue for Shanahan. Like, I don't think he'd hold out. Hey, you're not going to give me the $7 million to come here. Maybe he will come for a little bit less to a team to get back into the game where he'd like to be. And maybe like this would be a situation I think he'd thrive in as well because it's a smaller market. It's still a hockey market. And it's an opportunity to take a team who've really been floundering for a decade or more now to the next level. Like you talk about Toronto and how they didn't have playoff success, but yeah, they were consistently in the race for the division, consistently made the playoffs, and game sevens of first rounds weren't Shanahan's fault. Like his players need to buckle down there and win one of the 9 that they've lost. It's an interesting name. It's an interesting situation because I'm with you. I said no to Don Malone really quickly because of what you just mentioned. Like he feels like the old guard. He feels like the yes man. He feels just like when you tell your kid to go do something. Yeah, Dad, I'll go do. And that's what it feels like. And you need someone at the top who can manage upwards. And I don't know if they have that in Calgary. And when you have someone who's just going, yes, 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 everything just always rolling downhill and there's never any pushback, the ideas are never challenged. And if the ideas are never challenged, you're never expanding your way of thinking things and you stop growing. And you've seen that in Calgary. This franchise has stopped growing. And year after year, it gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And then Brad Treliving jumps ship and it gets a little bit worse. And a bunch of people ask out of the organization and people have to come out and try to defend your city and defend the team. And it gets a little bit worse standing wise. And really, right, this feels like at the beginning of the season is rock bottom now. But there's no one pushing back on Murray Edwards other than fans saying, no, we got to fix it because what your mandate of always making the playoffs, it's not working. And I don't want to speak bad of Don Maloney. I'm sure he's a great guy and he's had a lot of success in his hockey career. But it feels like everyone is just yes, 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 yes. And there's no one pushing back. And I think a guy like a Shanahan or there's other guys out there like that who would push back on the ideas. And when you have differing ideas and conversations, that's when your organization can make different decisions, go different directions, find success other ways, because that's really what you need is you need to challenge one another. And I bet you if you go to Toronto and you heard him talk to the MLSE board or his general manager, not everyone was in lockstep. They talked ideas out. They pushed one another, and that's how you get better, in my opinion.
100%. And yeah, it just comes back to the idea of managing up because it does feel like, once again, we don't know these things. We're just assuming, and we're just kind of talking out of our ass right now. But
it's what we see, right? It's what we see in here.
Yeah, and it does feel like Murray Edwards is a difficult owner to deal with. It does feel like he kind of has his hands on a lot of decisions that are being made with this team, and that's where you need a tough guy like Brendan Shanahan, who's had experience dealing with these types of people. That's where you need him to come in and say, like, you need to back off and you need to let us do what we're going to do here. And I just, once again, unfair to Don Maloney potentially because we don't know him, but it just doesn't feel like he's that guy. And I think the Flames need that. And like I said, Shanahan, he oversaw the Toronto Maple Leafs during a rebuild. The Calgary Flames need to rebuild. They're literally in the exact same position where the Leafs were when Shanahan took over, and he guided them into becoming a playoff team every single year. And a legit playoff team, a superstar talent that played exciting up-tempo hockey, that sold out arenas every single night. The Flames kind of need that right now. And that's why I bring his name up. I bet you I bet you if I were to bring up Shanahan's name, I bet you a lot of Flames fans would roll their eyes because they'd say, "Oh, the Leafs had no playoff success and all that kind of stuff." But when you really like dig down deep and have the discussion, like we've just had here, I do think a guy like Shanahan makes a lot of sense for this group.
And you want to know what Shanahan had there? Shanahan had high-end draft picks. He had high-end skill. He had guys picked. Austin Matthews was first overall. Mitch Marner was a high draft pick. Morgan Riley was a high draft pick. And so it kind of goes in lockstep with what we've been talking about too, is you get a guy in charge and can manage really, really well. And you also have those high-end prospect and skill in your roster. Those kind of come together to make you a successful franchise. So the things that we've been talking about over the last few episodes, it kind of comes to all together here. When you get it right, it looks really, really good, and you have playoff success and success within the season and division championships and all that kind of stuff just kind of follows you around because you've gone through the process. So I think it all matches together here because you look at this Flames roster, and we're going to jump back in and talk about these players here. We don't have the elite prospects. We don't have the elite talent on this roster that we have to get. And so that's why the tanking conversation is so prevalent on social media and among fans, because they see that we need the high-end prospects, because guys like Sharon Govich and Connor Zary and Joel Farabee, all due respect, and they're just not getting the job done as well, Robert. So we go back to this roster here. How do you help these younger players develop here? How do we get this team back on track to even just play exciting hockey this year for you, Robert?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we talked about near the beginning of the show, and just Huska might have to, not play such a structured, pure defensive style of game. He might have to kind of unleash these guys a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like you take a look up and down the lineup right now. Everyone's struggling, and I go to a guy like Connor Zary. Connor Zary, when he's playing well, he's carrying the puck, he's making plays, he's making confident, moves, dangles around defensemen. He's really making his presence known in the offensive zone. We haven't seen anything like that this season. I look at like Yegor Sharangovich. When he's going, he's ripping one-timers. He's got that slingshot wrist shot that he had when he scored 31 goals. He's making plays. He's a very confident player. He's being creative. I haven't seen any of that this year. Same goes for Matt Coronado, Joel Farabee, Morgan Frost. Like, these guys I think they just need to get the leash extended a little bit when it comes to offense. Mm-hmm. And that comes down to Ryan Huska. But the issue is that, he's made it clear to this team that Calgary Flames hockey is low event, play very good defense, block shots, and get great goaltending. And if we can score 2 or 3 goals, we can win a little bit. And I just don't think you can do that in today's NHL. I really think that he's got to let these guys play a little bit of offense here and let them be a little more creative and take more risks, because what they're doing right now is not working. They're dead last in goals. No one's having success on this team right now. It's hard to watch. So that's kind of what I'd like to see moving forward. And now that they're kind of out of the playoff, now that they're out of the playoff race, hopefully he'll do that, and hopefully he'll allow these guys to take some more chances, and in turn, hopefully that could lead to some more entertaining hockey for the fan base, because they deserve it right now.
In the rundown that we talked about before we recorded here, Robert, we have some headlines in there. You got what's going on with Zary, and we got Sharon Govich. What the hell? It's like we kind of talk about these players, and we're like, we want to rag on these players, but how much is this more of we have to kind of blame two parties at the same time here? Ryan Huska is putting these guys at 4C or second line or whatever it is, and it changes almost period by period for some of these guys. How much is it to blame on just being moved around and not having a role to versus, well, we're just not seeing you play well, so you're not forcing Ryan Huska's hand? Because I think both of those decisions kind of go side by side here when talking about this roster. Yes, you want to see Connor Zary be more assertive in his play, drive the net more, handle that puck more, find guys down the sea, whatever it might be that makes Connor Zary successful. Yes, you want to see Sharon Govich, rip that one-timer. He's got a tremendous shot he doesn't ever seem to use anymore. But at the same time, you're putting them on the fourth line between Lomberg and Klapka. How successful can they really be in those situations? So it's kind of a double-edged sword here, Robert, where we need more from you guys, but Huska's got to put these guys in spots to succeed here, because I think if you can get Zeri and Sharon Govich and even Farabee to a point, and all these other wingers a little bit more comfortable in their roles, that this Coronado's another good one. If these guys can settle into some roles here, maybe the offense comes a little bit easier for them. Maybe these games become a little bit easier to watch, and maybe these guys have a little bit more fun. Now, they're not going to make the playoffs, and that's not the goal at the end of the day here, in my opinion, for this Flames group, but at least be entertaining to watch. Like, I always go to the example of San Jose. San Jose is not a good roster overall, but they're exciting to watch because guys have their roles and they're not punished because they make a mistake in those roles. They learn, they grow as an organization, and they're a fun team to watch. Kind of want to see that from the Flames a little bit here. So for you, Robert, how much is it between the players not playing well, but also Ryan Huska not putting you guys in a place to succeed?
Yeah, but you're bang on there. It's like the chicken and the egg conversation. It's
Yeah.
Are these players playing poorly because they're not being put in a position to succeed, or is it on the players that they themselves are just not playing well? It's kind of that discussion right now, and I think the fair answer to it is that it's a mix of both. Like you just said, Huska needs to put them in consistent positions to succeed. We've seen Connor Zary be put in the top 6, both at center and on the wing. But then after 2 or 3 games of that, he's back centering the fourth line, or he's a healthy scratch. That's where you want to see some more consistency from Ryan Huska when he's setting his lineup. Same goes for Matt Coronado. Same went for Zane Parekh. I think Huska, he needs to trust his guys. He needs to put guys in a position for weeks. Like we're talking 15, 20 games rather than 1 or 2 games. Because how are you supposed to build any confidence? How are you supposed to build any chemistry or continuity with people when you're being put, like for a guy like Connor Zary, he's been first line, second line, third line, fourth line. He's been on the wing. He's been at center. He's been a healthy scratch. He's been on power play 1. He's been on power play 2. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like put this guy in a consistent position so that he can start to build some confidence. Because when you move him around and all that, like throughout the lineup, what's he supposed to do? Like, no wonder he's struggling. At the same time, he also does need to step up. When he does get those opportunities, he himself needs to step up. Mm-hmm. Same goes for all the other guys that we've been talking about. They also need to step up and prove that they can play in those positions. But Huska's also got to give him a longer leash for sure. So yeah, I think what you're saying there is absolutely bang on.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about the forwards too. It's not just the forwards, it's the defensemen, right? People are going to talk about Weegar having, like I talked about it. Weegar has no goals, only 4 points in 17 games. He leads the league in minus 16, but he's also played with everybody under the sun. So it's like you got to get these guys comfortable playing with one another, and these guys have got to play a little bit better to not force Ryan Huska to move them around. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg conflict. I like how you worded that there, Robert.
What's going on with Weegar? Like what's your theory on this guy?
I was going to rope Rasmus Andersson into that conversation and ask you the same question, because you have Rasmus Andersson, 5 points, 17 games, minus 1. Weegar is minus 16, 4 points and 17. Both of those veterans that are supposed to be leading your back end aren't really leading your back end. Rasmus Andersson likes to take all the penalties in the world at wrong times and put your team down, and you can't run a power play anymore to save his life. Mackenzie Weegar seems to get lost. Like that goal against Minnesota, and yes, he played a decent game outside of it, but you're going across the entire ice surface to try to cut a guy off when you have a back check coming and your defensive partner's already over there. So it's a lot of mental errors for me, and I can't put my finger on why.
I'm struggling with it too, because like you said, 0 goals, 4 assists, minus 16. He looks very frustrated out there. Like it doesn't look like he's having fun playing hockey. And
no,
mind you, nobody's probably having fun in that dressing room right now because they're in dead last. But at the same time, like Weegar's the kind of guy that's he's like a high energy, high positivity guy. He likes to have fun. You can tell he is just miserable right now. And the weird thing is the decision making, because when you think of Mackenzie Weegar over the last couple years here in Calgary, he's probably been their most reliable player. He's probably been the guy that you can go to in any situation and know that he's going to make the right play. He's going to make the right decisions. We just haven't seen that this year. Like there's been multiple plays. If you go back and watch all the games again, you could probably pick out a play or two a game where he completely puts himself out of position, where he goes for the big hit, where he steps up when he shouldn't step up, when he goes to make a play but turns it over. There's a lot of things that he normally never does, he's doing this year. It's the one thing that kind of comes to mind for me is that I think he desperately wants to get this team into the playoffs. I think he desperately wants to make Team Canada. And I almost think he's just doing too much. Mm-hmm. I think if he were just to kind of step back, simplify his game, make the smart plays, don't get overly aggressive, make good reads. Like if you were to do all those things like he's been doing the last 2 years, I think he'd be fine. But the mix of wanting to get the team to the playoffs, the mix of wanting to make Team Canada, and just the fact that the Flames are a tire fire right now, I think he wants to do everything in his power to turn this around for the team. And I think he's almost doing too much and he's overextending himself. That's kind of the read I get on the situation right now.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to do everything for this team. Like he understands the situation I think that this team is in. And when you're trying to drag a team along, you tend to try to overdo and overcommit. Like that play on Sunday that we were talking about when they played. Sorry, Monday when they played Sunday or Monday, whenever they played Sunday. Minnesota. I got all my days mixed up here. This holiday in the middle of the week screwing me up. That's a play that he wouldn't have made last year. He would have stayed in the middle of the ice in the slot, knowing that he has the front of the net covered and he has the backside covered. That would be the smart Mackenzie Weegar play to do. Well, this year we're seeing him jump up and go over across the ice, or he jumps up and he pinches against the Golden Knights, leading to odd man rushes. And it's very uncharacteristic for a guy. It's almost like he's uncomfortable right now in his own skin, his own hockey skin, and that he's trying to do too much because he wanted to accomplish all this stuff this year. And they got off to such a bad start that it just kept snowballing on him here. And he makes one mistake and he tries to make up for that mistake and he makes a second mistake and it just snowballs over the course of a game, which leads to multiple games and leads to this mess of a season for Mackenzie Weegar. He leads the team with ice time. He's second on the team in penalty minutes, and his shooting percentage is 0. He's only got 29 shots on the year in total here. It's just a struggle for him because I think he's over committing to a lot of things and trying to do too much. So less is more maybe for Mackenzie Weegar, in my opinion as well.
Yeah, it's really too bad that he's not going to make Team Canada. I actually thought he had a legit shot.
Me too.
Based off of last season, like he was probably, I would imagine he was probably like the last cut, quote unquote, of Team Canada last year, last cut or second last cut. I thought he played well at the World Championships. Mm-hmm. And I thought that would put him in a position to make the team had he got off to a good start. And it just hasn't happened for the guy. And I just really feel bad for him because I think I could probably speak on behalf of all Flames fans. We would have all loved to seen him go to the Olympics and get that opportunity and represent the team out there. But just with the way things have gone this year, it's looking like that's not going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a large portion of this fan base who would really love him to be the captain of this team as well, right? So this is a guy who's loved by the fan base, and he's getting a lot of responsibility from the coaches, and the opportunity was there. Just unfortunately went the other direction to start this year for him.
He should be the captain, and I don't like having this conversation because it's taking like personal shots at Michael Backlund, and like when we do this podcast, we do our best to never take personal shots at a guy. But when you're talking about a leadership position, a lot of it comes down to like who they are as a person. Mm-hmm. And like, man, like Michael Backlund just feels like more like an assistant captain to me than a captain. Like you watch like things like post-game interviews, and Weegar just he puts his heart in his sleeve, like he pours out emotion. You know, like he seems like the type of guy you want to run through a wall for. And then you see Michael Backlund, and like after the game against Minnesota, he was saying, you know, you can't win hockey games if you don't score goals. Well, no shit. You watched it and you're like, and then like you see like in the chase, you know, he's making a speech to the team and he's talking about a ketchup bottle. He's like, you know, it's a Swedish thing, and you know, the harder you shake it, the the harder it is to get the ketchup out. We just got to calm down. I'm like, what kind of speech is this? You're talking to NHL players. You're talking about a ketchup bottle. Like you see stuff like that, and you're like Mackenzie Weegar, like he should be the captain of this team. I don't like saying that because Backlund seems like an amazing human being, and he does all this great work in the community, and he's been a great Flame. But like sometimes there are guys who feel like they're captains, and there are guys who feel like they're more kind of associate captains, guys that are helpful pieces on the side. Whereas Weegar feels like he's the guy in that locker room, and he's the one kind of commanding. He's that commanding presence in that room. That's kind of how I feel about it. And like I said, I don't like taking shots at Backlund, but I think a lot of the fan base would agree with that statement.
It feels like this is going to sound like a shot too, and I don't mean it because I actually don't mind. I didn't mind him being named the captain, but it almost felt like he was given captain as part of the legacy of him being a Flame and a career-long Flame.
Yeah,
because that's really what it feels like is happening here. That they're just gonna 2-year or 1-year contracts, much like Joe Thornton did with San Jose, just to end his career here, just to make him a lifelong Flame. And I'm okay with that if the role's the right role and he's put in the right spot and all that kind of stuff. But when he was given that contract extension and given the C in that day, it really felt like this was a legacy thing for him. I don't know if this team right now needs a legacy captain. I think they need a captain who is going to, I don't want to say kick some butt or get mad in the locker room, but a captain who's going to show the emotion of, hey, we might be 32nd, but we still have to have pride in what we are doing here. We still need to have pride in that we are professional hockey players and that this team is a team and that we play for one another. So I think right now the message should be just that from a captain. It shouldn't be a guy who just tries to lead by example. I don't think that's what this team needs. So it's not saying that Michael Backlund's a bad captain, in my opinion. I just think he's the wrong guy at the wrong time. And that a legacy captain was fun or can be fun. We've seen those before. But this needs to be a captain who's going to get some emotion into that room, because this team, and this is partly on Huska as well, this team comes out of these games, and how many times you see them come out of the game really, really flat, or come out of a second period and they're really flat, or they can't finish a third period. That's where you need a captain to kind of be the rah-rah guy and to lead these teams and to get these guys going. You don't see that from Michael Backlund in the public eye. And I know he's respected in that locker room, but maybe it is time to switch up the captaincy, because the legacy's great and all that. And I'm glad Backlund's around and he might be a long-term Flame. I'm a big fan of the guy. But what this team needs, I don't think, is what Backlund provides.
Yeah, and like when you watch the play on the ice, like who's the guy who's the guy you want to run through a wall for? Is it Mackenzie Weegar, who blocks a million shots, who's an offensive guy, who hits everything that moves, like who plays with passion, who drops the gloves every now and then? Or is it Backlund, like this third and soon to be fourth line center, who's just like a pure defensive shutdown guy that doesn't play physical, that doesn't step up and fight, that doesn't really play with emotion,
who hasn't been good this year?
Yeah, like I would say he's been just fine. Like he's been kind of average Michael Backlund, what you'd expect from a 36, 37-year-old, however old he is. It's like, yeah, who do you want to play for? And I wonder if Backlund takes a lesser role within the next year or two here, I wonder if he'd be willing to give up the C to a guy like Weegar. Mm-hmm. We've seen that in the past. We saw it with Craig Conroy and Jerome McGinley. There comes a time where it's almost obvious that a certain guy should be the leader, and I think a lot of people pick up on that. And yeah, and like you said, Backlund's been a really good Flame. We have nothing but good things to say about him, but he might not be like the captain material. And we could be totally out to lunch, because you listen to interviews, guys rave about him, and they all call him like the leader of the team and all that stuff. I mean, what else are they supposed to say? But maybe they truly believe that Backlund's the right guy, but just from a fan's perspective and someone watching from the outside, it does feel like this is Weegar's team, this is Weegar's organization, and he should be that guy. And like I said, it's not like a personal shot at Michael Backlund. It's just it just kind of feels like that's the way it is right now.
There's been, and we don't do this on purpose, but there's been a lot of what people would say as negative talk on the podcast this week and last week and the week before. And that's going to be a given when your team's in 32nd place and there's a lot of questions around your coach and your players and stuff. But you dug deep into the archives here, Robert, of this team this year, and you found a good positive storyline to end the podcast on, and that is the Flames backup goaltender situation. We had questions of it coming into the season. We had, well, is this guy actually going to work out? But how good has Devin Cooley been in his few appearances this year? Because he's really answered a lot of the questions we had about people were calling the weakest part of this team here. How good has Devin Cooley been for you?
Yeah, you know your team's having a rough year when the backup goalie who's played 5 games is the best story of the season so far. Hey,
yeah. It's a slog.
It's cool though, because like I know you and I we're major Devin Cooley fans. You know, both you and I were saying that he should have been the backup last season. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of nice to see Cooley having lots of success and showing that, you know, what we saw was real. What we saw from him last year, not only in training camp in the preseason, but the AHL, like he showed that he can be an NHL goalie, and he's doing that right now. And you take a look at some of the numbers. So this is among 58 goalies that have played at least 220 minutes this year. Devin Cooley is second in the NHL in save percentage. Like who would have thought that heading into the season? He's got a .935 right now, which is unbelievable. He's third in the league in goals against average. Like he's ahead of Dan Vladar. The only 2 people that are ahead of him are Jonathan Quick and Logan Thompson. Mm-hmm. And then you look at goals saved above expectation.
I love this stat right here.
The crazy thing is he's 10th in the NHL in that category, and he's only played 5 games.
Isn't that crazy?
All the other guys that are ahead of him, 13 games played, 11, 10, 11, 11. That's how good Devin Cooley has been to start this season. It's awesome to see because he seems like a great guy. It's a really cool story to have a guy from California pretty much just grind and battle his way through the pro ranks. He hasn't played very much hockey despite being about 28 or 29 years old. So to see him kind of come into the NHL and have the success he's having is awesome, and you're really happy to see it. And you know, between the Flames goaltending, like it's been pretty good all season long, and yet they're still in 32nd. It's pretty wild. Did you see this coming in terms of like the amount of success he's having early this season?
You're asking your goalies to give you a shutout every single night based on this offense. So yeah, it's not hard to say that the goaltending has been the best part of this Flames team easily. I thought we would see Cooley struggle a little bit. Like I thought we would see like an .895 type save percentage, right, from him. You know, goals against of just over 2.5 type of thing. You know, backup goaltender, NHL backup goaltender numbers. That's not what he's giving you. He's giving you really good playoff caliber starting goaltending numbers in a limited role that he's been given. And so it's been a surprise to me. I knew he could be an NHL goaltender based on what I saw from him in the past and the games he played in San Jose before being signed as a Flame. And it's a really good story because now you got 2 California-based goaltenders tending goal for the Flames here and looking really good while doing so. So Devin Cooley's done what you wanted from him and maybe even a little bit more. And this is going to allow, and I hope the Flames approach it this way, this is going to allow you to maybe give Dustin Wolf a little bit more rest over the course of the season to allow Wolf to continue to have a really good season, to put his best effort out every single night that he's accounted on to be in this thing. Because this Flames team is, I don't see an end to this goal scoring woes. You're going to continually ask these guys to allow less than 2 goals every single night while trying to struggle to get to 2 yourself. And that's a really hard ask of these goaltenders. So it's a really positive story, in my opinion, that the Flames have 2 guys now that play behind this team that are going to give them a chance to be in hockey games late into games. And that's all you can ask for. So I think Devin Cooley, yeah, we are talking about a backup goaltender as the positive story on a team. It tells you how the season's going, but I don't think, how to word this properly. I think it is a shining light to Devin Cooley, and he deserves a little bit of the spotlight from what he's done for this Flames team, providing in the backup goaltender role.
Yeah, and good on him because everybody was doubting him.
Everybody, yeah.
put yourself in his shoes in your own line of work. Imagine in your own line of work, you're struggling for about a month, like putting up really poor results. Things are not going your way. Everyone at your company is questioning your ability to get the job done, and they essentially give you one last try. So for Devin Cooley to overcome that, especially from like a mental standpoint, when no one had confidence in you, no one wanted to play you, no one wanted you on the team, in order for him to battle through that and to be able to prove people wrong is a really cool story. And even just you take a listen to the off-season conversations in the media and the training camp conversations in the media, everyone was saying Przvetov should be the guy. Everyone was saying Przvetov heading into training camp had the leg up, that he should be the backup goaltender. Everyone was writing Devin Cooley off. So good on him for stepping up here and proving everybody wrong. He has been absolutely phenomenal. And like you said, it's time to stop playing Dustin Wolf as much as you're playing him, because the whole playoff situation, it's over. There's really no point in playing Dustin Wolf 65 to 70 games, which he's kind of on pace for.
Yeah.
In a lost season. That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. If you want to play him in the high 50s, then yeah, go ahead. He's your guy. But it's time to give Cooley a lot more starts. He's shown that you can trust him. And there's also just the fact that you shouldn't be playing Dustin Wolf as much as you are.
100%. 100%. Flames Blues for the basement. Well, the Flames will be in the basement regardless, but it's
toilet bowl.
The two bottom teams of the league face off on Tuesday. A really intriguing matchup on Thursday versus San Jose. So looking forward to that one as well. Robert, anything else to bring up on the podcast? If not, tell these folks what's coming up from you on flamesnation.ca and where they can find your work.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have my weekly notebook up at some point today. So look for that. And then I'll be doing Afterburner on Thursday after the Sharks game. So looking forward to that as well. So yeah, lots of good things going on.
Excellent. Find Robert Munich at Ring of Fire CGY on X. Follow all of his good work at flamesnation.ca. I am Vintage Johnny 84 across those same social media platforms. And as always, the show is Red a Mile Rundown as well. Thank you for making us part of your podcast rotation. Do your best. I know it's hard at times, but do your best to dig in and enjoy the Flames hockey this week. We'll be back with you next week here on the Red Mile Rundown.